welcome everyone. This is the Successful Stylist Academy podcast, where we are on a mission to empower salons and hairstylists to dream big, set goals, and take action. We are here to help you each step of the way at successfulstylistacademy.com. Everyone, welcome back. Drea and I are going to be talking about vulnerability today in episode 8. So this is vulnerability in the beauty industry. So Drea, thank you so much for joining me. We have some really cool takeaways and some key tips. So get your notebooks out, find a cozy place to sit. Make sure you're not doing this while you're driving, or if you do, then make a mental note and come back later. And Drea, how you doing, babe?
Yes. Hi, I am doing great. Yes. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation on this extremely sexy word, vulnerability. Not one that's always like super comfortable. Welcome to Successful Stylist Academy. I'm Drea Lecher, and I am joining Ambrosia today just to have this conversation with you guys that I think just constantly comes up all the time, professionally and personally.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, vulnerability is definitely not a thing that you just achieve and you've mastered it. It's definitely something that is a constant, I think, a work of art, I would say. I'm calling it art because we are hairstylists, we're artists. And we definitely have some things that we want to share with you on kind of just what we've learned in time in partnership and relationships and building our clientele in business and leadership. There's a lot of ways that you can take these pieces of vulnerability and transform it to fit the needs of your life, and also to kind of make some waves to invite other people back into your life as well. That's going to help impact how you do your daily routines. So, Drea, do you want to start out with some of those top tips that you want to say?
Yeah, sure. I will take it away. I mean, I think with vulnerability as well, it's just it can be a little tricky. I love that you called it an art. It is kind of like that like lifetime that we're continuing to build off of and grow within and see, you know, where really that works for us to express ourselves in vulnerable ways. And I know it can be tricky in business and in leadership. If you're a salon owner and you're listening in, I think sometimes it's really scary to be vulnerable and to know like where exactly do we be vulnerable with our clients? Where do we be vulnerable with our staff, with our peers? Like where is that part of crossing over that line with professionalism? Is that something that is going to come back to I don't know, just to kind of like bite us again or blow up in our faces? Like where are those safe places and those ways to be vulnerable personally and within our craft? And I really think that when we're talking about vulnerability goes hand in hand with transparency and humility. And the really cool thing about leaning into vulnerability, leaning into transparency, and leaning into humility is that you really can't lean into pride and ego at the same time that you're leaning into vulnerability, transparency, and honesty. So I really think those are good things to start to wrap our heads around, and they take us closer to the character that we want to be in and the character that we want to be away from personally and professionally. I feel like I went off on a tangent there for a second. So
I was just letting you have the floor with that. It all sounded so good to me. It's so inspiring to hear that. And I think the hard part about transparency is that it's not one of those things that you have to just let it all out there. I mean, it's not like you have to say every detail that's on your mind, and you have to overshare with your peers, coworkers, your clients, friends. It's more about just being human, just allow yourself to really share your thoughts, your ideas, and just be human about it and be okay with not having to form like the perfect words. And this is coming from somebody who has a Japanese mom, and she definitely, I mean, I would say in my culture, the Japanese culture, we're raised on just having these types of beliefs where you, I mean, it really is like this perfectionist quality, like, and it's not just the Japanese culture, but it's definitely like it carries through in my family for sure. Like all the women in my household, it's like you need to have the answers to everything and you have to be perfect to everything you do. And so I just want to put that out there. I want to make sure that people, when they're thinking about the word vulnerability, it's not that you have to know the answers to everything. It's more just the way that you approach it and just allowing yourself to just be human and be honest. And being transparent is letting your guard down a little bit. And it's so much easier said than done. It takes lots of practice, I would say. So, anyway, not to interrupt you, Drea, you go on to your other points because you have some good ones in here.
No, I think that's great. I mean, being human is such a great way to put vulnerability. I really like to put into practice, like, I want to be human, I want to be vulnerable, and with that, I'm just going to pair it right along with getting really comfortable with saying I'm sorry when when I need to as well. So the 3 points that I really wanted to share today was vulnerability takes courage, vulnerability is uncomfortable, but vulnerability also allows us to really connect on a deeper level than I think we would be able to otherwise do without kind of exposing ourselves a little bit. So, vulnerability takes courage. I mean, there's a lot of fear in being vulnerable. And I mean, I think exposing ourselves, exposing our weaknesses, exposing sometimes our blind spots, admitting, like you said, that we don't always know the answers. The really cool thing that I found with vulnerability, even at within leadership, is that people don't always want the answer, a solution. They just want to know that, like, you're going to guide them or you're going to share something encouraging with them. So starting really, really small, I think, is
Oh,
huge.
that is so true. Yes, Drea. I'm so glad you said that because I think I've always had a tendency to want to just have the answer right away. And sometimes it's okay. I mean, it's not just sometimes, it's just okay to not have the answer and to say, I'm not sure on that. Let me get back to you, or let me find somebody who has the answer for you. Like, it's okay to not be like, I know everything. I'm an almanac or whatever.
Absolutely. I think in leadership, being a salon owner, like, we think that, and it's something that we put on ourselves a lot of times, that this solution and this answer is just expected. And when you go in and you're vulnerable and you're like, wow, I'm a little bit scared of this too, or this is the first time that I'm navigating this and I'm not really sure what to do with this, but this is something that I think could be great, or this is the direction I would like to go in. Like, what are your thoughts, or what are your feedbacks? It creates a healthy boundary. It creates a realistic expectation. It creates room for other people to come in and participate in the process. There are so many beautiful, powerful things that come from vulnerability within opening up the conversation like that. And maybe within a salon meeting or a meeting with peers or a collaboration, out of that group, find that safe person that you trust and pull them aside and do a check in. Like, how do you think that was received? Like, how do you think that I did? This was my intention. Do you feel like that came across in a genuine way? And with that, so you're being vulnerable, you're leaving room for other people to participate in the process, you're checking in with another person that is a safe place for you. And then taking that a step further, I say, with that, if you're asking someone, be open for constructive criticism. But with but with that, I mean, two things. We would rather be like ruined with praise than accept constructive criticism sometime. So that's one way to really think about that. And the other is, have that person be someone that's also sharpening you, because you don't want to take criticism from somebody that you wouldn't want to take advice from.
Oh, totally. Consider the source of where it's coming from. Exactly. That's so true. Sometimes I think we allow criticism to come in from way too many angles. We just open it with open arms. And then for some weird reason, I think a lot of people they have a hard time taking compliments, or they have a hard time receiving praise. And so I don't know what it is about the way we're raised or brought up or whatever, that tends to be, which actually kind of sews in really perfectly with an episode that we have coming up about mindset. So, that will be more to talk about there. But yeah, good point, Drea.
Thank you. So takes courage. And The next one is for me is that it's uncomfortable. And I really do love those little cliche sayings that, if you're not out of your comfort zone, you're not growing. And I think you should be squirming a little bit. You should feel stretched I mean, that's a great way to know if you're really putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. It should cause like a little bit of maybe a growing pain or a little bit of, discomfort. But the discomfort, the return, I feel like the real payoff in putting yourself out there in the discomfort is that do get to really connect on a deeper level than you would otherwise. I think as soon as we expose ourselves in areas where like we can be human, we immediately give other people the opportunity and permission to be human right alongside us, and more questions arise and more conversations happen and greater creativity and collaboration takes place because you've really gone past just scratching the surface.
Oh man, that's so good. Just say it all. Preach it, preach it. I love
I know you got something up your sleeve. Why don't you share a little bit? Being a salon owner, owning a business, being out on the road. I know there's just so many moments of like, when do you step into that? How do you step into that? And I really want to hear your take on some of this.
It's so interesting to me because when I first started the venture of switching gears from being a full time hairstylist on the floor to being a salon owner, I did not realize really how vulnerable you have to be in order to be a good leader. And allowing yourself to open the doors and just to be completely transparent. That's why I'm so glad that you brought up that word earlier, to be transparent with your team and to be really vulnerable, be human with them. It allows them to do the same back. But what's interesting about it is that not only is it a courageous thing to do on both ends, but it also helps us with being more resilient and just brave in general. So we get to embrace who we really are. We get to talk about our actual feelings about things. It allows us to have a different kind of a relationship. And that is really, I mean, if you want to call it the secret sauce or something,
Sauce it up.
but it's real whatever kind of sauce it is, it's the good sauce. It's the sauce I want because yeah, it's super saucy. It's like I like it because it adds just a different flavor to my surroundings, and it gives back in multiple ways. And so we all get to be our best selves when we feel empowered, when we feel like we're safe, when we feel heard and understood. And also what's really cool about it is that we all start to share more ideas with each other. It's just like we're tossing this ball back and forth where I'm getting ideas from, my own employees, and then in return I'm coming up with other ideas for them, and I'm always thinking about what more they could have in their lives if they really wanted it. And all they have to do is step to the plate and tell me, I'm ready for this. Let's bring it on. I want to do it. And I'm there to just encourage them. And it excites me. It inspires me to watch that happen. So as a leader, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, that it takes a huge it's such a small little step. Like it's not one of these things that you have to just be like a completely different person. What I'm saying is that you have to start being more yourself. You have to stop acting as if you know the answers to everything. You have to start asking for help. And it is hard to do in the beginning. But what's really amazing about it is that those who excel and do it well anyway are going to step forward because you called upon it and you gave them permission to do it. And you invited them so they feel like they're part of the club, and it's not like they're just coming here to do work. And how amazing of a feeling is that? We all want that in our lives. We want a place of belonging. We want a sense of self. I mean, why is it that our society needs structure? We crave it. We need it. And so to be a good leader, you have to be vulnerable to let that happen. So anyway, I kind of went on a tangent there, but that goes into the next thing. And the next part of that, of being vulnerable, is that it helps you build strong empathy. And that also has to do with leadership. It it's hard to be a strong leader if you lack empathy, because you can't relate to what's going on in other people's lives. And then, they're going to feel disconnected. You feel it when someone's connected to you versus disconnected. I mean, even when we're talking about technology, even if it's not face to face, you can tell when you are having a conversation with somebody if it feels truly like a connected piece, or if they're pitching to you, or if it feels stale, or if it feels rehearsed. You just know, right? So it's a feeling that you get because it's that exchange of energy. There's so much that we don't even understand that's out there. And I don't want to like get all like weird on you guys or anything, but there's so much that we really don't know as far as like where our energy transfers from. It's not just human to human interaction, it's our face to face interaction. It's also stuff that happens around us and the way that we converse and what we invite in. So, anyway, the other piece of it that I want to talk about is that it allows us to let our walls down. We build better relationships in general. I know I already mentioned that. But once you let your wall down and you actually invite other people to have conversation with you, it changes the tone of everything. I will say to you, a lot of my clients I've been doing for, gosh, like over 20 years. And yes, I get new clients, but the clients that I've built like really strong, solid relationships with. And guys, I mean, I'm talking about some women that have started to coming to see me. I don't know, like we've seen each other twice now. And to the point where we're having these deep conversations and we're vibing and connecting on such a level that it's almost as if have forgotten what they've come here for. It's like the bonus became the hair. It's not the bonus became the relationship. And then we get to share relationships, and all of a sudden we're exchanging information. They're sending me books. They're like, there's just all kinds of cool stuff that gets to happen from that. So never underestimate the type of relationships, the things you can learn and grow from with the people that your very own neighbors, the people that are right next to you. So letting that happen. Not only that, it will also allow you to let go of those negative emotions. It will just simply happen by nature, because that you're calling upon empathy. You're calling upon your courageous self. You're calling upon your braveness. And by doing that, you're also expelling negative energy. So it just happens naturally. You don't even have to worry about it. It's a rinse and repeat type cycle, guys. So it just simply comes out of you. The last part of what I was going to actually point about this, not to go on like a, I've already been on a rant, but I know, the last part of this is that I actually want to point out the fact that it aids us in our innovation and our creativity. So by being vulnerable, we get to tap into that creative side a little bit more, and we get to aid ourselves in, just think about what we do on a daily basis. We have to come up with new and creative ideas for our clients. We have to keep it fun, fresh, exciting. That can feel very energy draining if you look at things that way. But if you allow yourself to become more vulnerable and you put ideas out there, even if you don't think that they're going to say yes, even if you're not sure if they're going to like it doesn't matter. You're putting it out there because it's what feeds you, it's what gives you energy. And the right people are going to step up and just say, "Yeah." And then you'll be so surprised, guys. Like just try it, So there's a lot of steps that happen in the meantime. It's not simply like you just turn the faucet on and then the water flows. It's definitely one of those things that takes time and practice. So I feel as though if we allow ourselves to do something on the daily, right? Like we give ourselves goals where maybe we don't feel super comfortable with having those personal conversations with our clients. That's okay. You don't have to get super personal, but make it about that person. Have empathy for what's happening in their lives and learn more about them. Those little tiny pieces, it's not that you have to be vulnerable and transparent. You can simply be vulnerable and allowing and accepting them to be themselves and to open up in ways that maybe you didn't think to do before. What do you think?
There's so much good stuff in that. I mean, I give you all permission to just like hit the rewind button and like play all of that back through again. So much good stuff there. I do think like as soon as there's so many people suffering from anxiety right now in our culture. I mean, I just hear it all the time with clients that sit in my chair. I feel like it is a constant. And I feel like vulnerability is really a missing piece because the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves in so many ways, I feel like as soon as we kind of just slowly step into this vulnerability piece a little bit more organically and a little bit more consistently, we are going to be moving through our days so much lighter and giving other people permission to do exactly the same thing. I feel that it allows for us to begin to just be our own authentic selves within every interaction. That's just going to keep, like you're saying, just it just keeps taking the pressure off. And the more you do it, the more you do it. The more you do it, the easier it is the next time. So it can start small, and it can start with just allowing space for another person to be vulnerable as you figure out how you're going to step into that space and share it with them. I look at if meekness is power under control, I really look at vulnerability being strength within your weakness, because you're really exposing your weaknesses in such a courageous way that it's like not even your weakness. It's just like vulnerability immediately jumps in and just becomes a superpower, and it improves every interaction. It improves within your business, within your personal relationships. The whole to be loved is to truly be known. But we wear all of these masks in our society, and we're told that we're supposed to, the whole fake it till you make it. How about just like don't fake it at all? And I think, if to truly be loved, which is a human thing that we all constantly seek on whatever level, is to truly be known. How can we truly be known if we're never allowing ourselves to be seen? And that is the vulnerable piece to that. And it does come apart with that, come together with that humility and the transparency. And honesty and transparency are always being compared. And honesty is when someone asks you something and you tell them the truth. Transparency is when you don't have to be asked and you choose to expose it anyway.
Oh, that's a good breakdown. I love that. And I actually wrote down to truly be loved is to truly be known. That's going to be my bumper sticker quote this week.
SSA new bumper sticker coming at you.
That's beautiful. I'm totally going to actually write up that quote, and that's going up. It's happening. That's beautiful. I love the definition, the breakdown that you just pointed out too, because I think it's sometimes transparency. Like I was stumbling with my words earlier, trying to just decipher transparency because I had a misconception of what transparency meant, and I think sometimes other people do as well. So I'm just glad you said that. And you know what I found interesting too is that when I started allowing myself to be vulnerable, quote unquote, when I actually allowed myself to accept help and to ask for help and to share with people that I was burnt out or that I was frustrated, or if there were things that were bothering me, or if even if I just had like a relatable thing that was just human, um, I realized something that it started inviting other people that inspired me to bring out things in myself that had been sheltered, and I didn't realize that. And so it almost brought a new life to me. It was like a rebirthing process. I don't even know where I'm coming up with these weird analogies, you guys. I don't know, it comes out of me, but definitely it's like it invites the right people to your corner. And I remember earlier in my career, what this stylist that was so busy, and she was just burning and turning, and I was like, man, she's killing it. I want to be like her when I grow up. And I'll never forget when she stood up in a class once and she said, how can I get all new clients? I don't like any of my clients. I want to change all of them. And there was kind of like this weird shift in the room, like it became super awkward. And I was like, how could she say that? She's so busy. She's so driven. And I always see the side of her that she just loves, she just had this energy about her that she exuded to her clients. But here's the thing, it wasn't true to her. So she was super exhausted by the end of the day. She was drained. And she was telling me, off to the side after that class, she just said, I have a ton of vampires. I have clients that just literally suck the life from me. And it's like, because you have the wrong people in your chair. And that's the thing. If you choose to go down that path, it's not that it's wrong, but it's just going to be more energy draining. And it's also going to make you feel burnt out from time to time or all the time. And so you can choose to be vulnerable. And by doing that, it's just going to attract the right kind of people that get you, that get to be like, they will pay you and you get to hang out with them almost as if they're a friend all at the same time. Or you can feel energy drained and not have the right person in your chair. The choice is completely up to you, but it's interesting how, like, just doing little changes and little tweaks and just allowing yourself to present things in a very different way, how it can change the course of events and what you get to surround yourself by. So I love this. The truly be loved is to truly be known. Like, let it be known, folks.
Well, and that was such a great little tidbit. Like, I loved earlier how you also said, like, the hair is the bonus. Like, when you're moving through your day with vulnerability, it's like you're hanging out with people, you're conversating, you're becoming friends. You're just being you as you move through your day, and the hair is the bonus. And that's what makes it not exhausting. That's what makes it not feel like work. And yeah, good stuff.
It is. It's great stuff. And, you know, I think also one of the things about vulnerability, or not just vulnerability, but I think one of the things about letting your guard down, like we'll just say that, not vulnerability, but just letting your guard down. What's interesting about it is that I think you can see through a different lens. It's not just like what you're receiving, but also what you're able to see. And by letting that guard down, you just get to look through a fresh pair of eyes. When you're like, you look at little kids and they have so much energy and everything's exciting, everything's fresh, everything's new, they're looking at things through a very different lens. So it's almost as if we get to learn by our youth again. It's almost like those things that happened during those molding, shaping years where we were taught, be this way, do this, have that, in order to have this, you need to be this way. It's just like all the societal stuff that made us feel that we had to do things a certain way. Otherwise, we weren't going to be successful. We weren't going to be taken seriously. We were going to be seen as a ditzy dingbat, as a female in the industry, or we're already a hairstylist. People look at us a certain way. We have to act this way. There's just a lot of stuff. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stuff. It's just like, you know, all this stuff that's coming around you and pushing you, pushing you, pushing you, and all that pressure. It's like, think of it as like a diamond. You get to turn into that diamond. You get to shine and reflect, and you'll have all these prisms, and you'll have all this opportunity to let light in and to reflect light out. And so try to think of things more in that light or in that way, rather than thinking of it as like, oh gosh, I'm being vulnerable. It's such a heavy word. It's like, it's a lot to take on when you, and words are powerful, words are heavy. And words can sometimes stop us from doing something, or they can empower us to do something. So if sometimes you struggle with that word, or you feel as if like, I don't like being vulnerable, I don't like putting myself out there, I like to have things confined and all this stuff, then okay, that's cool. Like, you don't have to be like out there. And vulnerability is very different for each person. It is about just letting yourself be who you are. And letting yourself be who you are is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because it allows you to relax and enjoy the things that are around you, and not keep scrambling and scraping and trying to find the next thing that's going to make you feel content.
I dig the new lens. I'm pretty sure you just created a healthy designer rose colored glasses.
Diamond, thank you. Diamond rose color glasses. So what are some of the things, I guess, if you could design your career, if you if you look back over the course of your career, because we've gone through a lot, we've done a lot in our career, and but we still aspire to do more. And what's interesting is that I think some people think that, like, oh, you're at the peak of your career, you're at the peak of your career, and then things start to change or go downhill from there. Or what do you want your legacy to be? I've been hearing this kind of stuff a lot just because people that I surround myself by tend to be at a certain place in their career, right? And so it's kind of a heavy, like burdensome thing if you put it into that category. But if I put it in a lighter way for you, Drea, would you say that what are some of the things that you've learned specifically related to vulnerability and the things that have turned and changed for you in the events of your career and your successes?
Um, I would say vulnerability. Uh, what I've learned is that it feels like a sacrifice at first. Like it feels like you're really putting yourself out there, and then it's just natural. But that sacrifice right at the beginning, the return on it, like you never do it for the expectation of the return. Like when you're really trying to be vulnerable, it's like you're in this place where you're like, I mean, I was a control freak for a really long time. I'm going to use this as an example. I was like a super, super control freak. My A type personality took over more of my creative personality, whatever. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it was really exhausting for me. And I have people say, "So what did you do? Like what did you do to just like not feel like you had to be in control anymore?" And there's a lot of things I did in life to get to a different place. This is not a spot where I did a lot. I said, I'm just really tired. Like I just got really tired. And you were saying about like being exhausted, not being vulnerable and putting pressure on yourself, having up walls, maintaining control, showing up, always being on. Those things are exhausting. And what I have found in my career is every time you're vulnerable, it will always surprise you in a positive way. It will always leave you less exhausted and less drained. It will always bring you closer to your goals. It will always bring you closer to other people naturally, organically. It will always surprise you, leaving space for new opportunities and new ventures. It will land you the clients in your chairs that you want to be there. It will get you kind of like, I don't know, the jobs or the opportunity that are a fit for you and your philosophy. You're not having to, when you're vulnerable, you don't, we attract what we project. So I feel like when we're being vulnerable, we're going to get slotted into those spaces and with the people that kind of align with us that just make everything easier to move through. And not that it's not a challenge, but then it's like a good challenge. Like, let's take this on and make this crazy hairpiece, but with this amazing team where we can all discuss and talk openly and make changes. So, vulnerability has shown me that when I step into it, it will always surprise me with positivity, opportunity, closer relationships, healthier relationships, things that are just already a better fit for me. And if that is something, if I could have let go of fear and not try to live up to something in any part of my life or my career that I thought someone else wanted me to be, or that I had designed around an untrue narrative for myself, I would have saved myself a lot of time and a lot of work and maybe some heartache in the process.
That's so interesting. I think sometimes you have to go through that process though, you know? I mean, to come out the other end and to have like true clarity. So, I mean, it's part of your story, it's part of your process. I mean, I had something similar. I would say that in my 20s and even into my early 30s, I just had such strong debilitating perfectionist qualities, and I saw that as a good thing, and I saw that as a strength. And I'm not saying it's not a good thing. I'm not saying it's not a strength, but I think I leaned on that way too much to the point where, yeah, it actually just became really draining and exhausting because I would overwork things, or I'd overthink things so much that it took the joy out of things. I just stopped. I didn't even enjoy it. All I was thinking about was what's next, what's next. So being able to be vulnerable in that sense and just allowing others to actually get to know me. I mean, a lot of people didn't even know that I was a single mom struggling through the beginning of the industry, and that I was like living on food stamps and stuff. People just always thought like, oh, I just thought you naturally had a gift for doing hair and a gift to gab. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This is all stuff I had to learn. It was definitely not. I mean, I would overthink myself to the point that I didn't even understand how to create a relationship or even how to do somebody's hair the way they would like it, because I was so worried that they weren't going to like their hair, that I had already made the decision that they were either not going to like me or their hair. And like, how bad is that to go about things that way? You know, it's it's such a negative thing to the point that it it robs your joy completely, you know. And so through the, second half of my career, when I finally like hit that, 34, 35 year mark, it wasn't like I hit the fuck it button, but I definitely reached a place where I was like, wow, I'm missing out on something here. I'm missing out on a key point of my, just my successes. I'm not even enjoying them. I have people that are saying really sweet things to me, but I don't feel connected to them. And so once I started kind of sharing that, then it was really interesting, because then started making relationships with like people like you, Drea, and like some of my really good friends in the industry. Uh, it's funny because now when I have a freak out mode and I have like three things due and one is like past due and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. Then it's just like, oh, that's right. I am human and it's okay. And all I have to do is let that person know I'm working on that right now. I apologize that this is going to be in late, but it will be in first thing tomorrow morning. And then they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyway, vulnerability can work on that way too. So just so you guys understand, like, it doesn't fit a certain archetype, it doesn't fit a certain definition. It is something that is constantly evolving and changing as we're learning and as we're adapting and growing. So just try little tiny baby steps every single day, reminding yourself this is a new day. I'm going to try this today. And maybe there's something like, one of the stylists I was talking with recently, she's been doing hair for a very long time and she wants to kind of shift her clientele. She wants to try to offer new services, but she's so scared to ask. And I'm just like, just throw it out there and just say, I had started doing or I started doing extensions recently and I love doing them. And I just, finished doing one on one of my clients. And then I thought of you. Just let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know that you have them in mind. How flattering is that? Even if they say no, they're still going to feel good. How amazing does that feel when you hear a no, but you're also like, they're happy and they feel good about it and they're thanking you and they're saying no at the same time? No does not mean no. No means no, not now. So just keep that in mind. Like, it's okay. Allow yourself to be vulnerable enough in order to ask, in order to put yourself out there, open your arms up with relationships, share stories, be transparent, all the things that Drea and I answered. If you can't or said, if you don't remember, rewind it, go back to the beginning and jot some of these things down, what resonates with you. We want to hear these things back from you guys as well. Any final thoughts that you want to say, Drea, before we close this down?
I mean, I you wrapped it up real good, but I do want to just like
Real, real good.
real good. But just yeah, just want to encourage people to kind of try to step into that however that looks for them and maybe get a little partner in crime. It's always nice when you're trying something new to have somebody that you're trying it out with. And I know that I certainly need accountability. So I do try to partner up when I'm doing something new. And I hope that that will align you to kind of be successful.
Well, I have to thank you one more time, Drea. I love having our friendship and just all of your thoughts with wisdom, all your bumper sticker quotes. They are super inspiring. And don't forget to meet up with us next week for episode 9. We are actually going to be talking with Jamie Ferrero. She's going to talk about customizing your client experience. And she's also got some really, really cool things to say about how she does her order of operations around the salon with her clients, and you guys are not going to want to miss it. So thank you so much, guys. Enjoy your night.
Thank you.